Welcome to Fangirling About Wicked. We have our Broadway playbill. We have the hat. This movie was so good. You will not find criticism here from me today. If you do not know the story behind Wicked, it's the tale of Elphaba, a young woman born with green skin, who grows up to become the Wicked Witch of the West. It's during the time where she's like late teens, and she actually ends up becoming friends with Glinda, the good witch that we see in The Wizard of Oz. They are very much frenemies for a good portion of the story as they're kind of navigating school and politics and the fact that each other has what the other one desperately wants, even though Glinda appears to have it all and Elphaba appears to like be at the lowest point of the totem pole. It is based off the most unhinged novel ever. But it has been wildly successful as a Broadway adaptation. And now we have the movie. And this movie is only part one. So the entire stage production of Wicked is about 3 hours long, and the part one of this movie is about 3 hours long. At first I was very upset about this, and now I'm not. I am actually so excited for part two. I've been a fan of the show for probably 15 years now. I'm gonna be trying to cover everything. The cast, the press tour that I am lovingly calling the press mess, the general fandom vibes and its explosion on TikTok, as well as the best scenes of the movie, even though they were literally all the best scenes. If you haven't seen the movie, I would highly recommend just exiting now and seeing the movie and then coming back. If you don't want to do that, feel free to stick around for the part about the cast and stuff. There might be mild spoilers, and then I will give you a warning before we actually talk about specific plot points. Goodbye to people who are exiting now. First of all, this movie took $145 million to make, and they have made that back in 2 weeks. That is insane. That is also the power of going into a movie that is properly funded with a big existing audience. I am looking at you so hard, any directors that are considering Throne of Glass and Akatar. So let's talk about the cast first, because when the cast was released, there was so much backlash. First, we have Cynthia Erivo, who I did not know her beforehand. Apparently I did. Like, people started being like, you don't know Cynthia Erivo, but yes you do. Here's her music. And they would put up songs that like I've heard before. Personally, I didn't really have many opinions going into it. And then we had Ariana Grande. Now, when I saw that, I had very mixed feelings because I felt that she would be able to embody the role just because I knew she had a Broadway background, and she's kind of played, not that Glinda is airheaded, but when she played Cat Valentine in Victorious, she had that sort of ditzy vibe to her, so I knew that she could kind of pull off the general vibes of Glinda's character. However, like a lot of people, I thought it was weird that they chose someone who was so, like, popular, for lack of a better term. We kind of all know Ariana Grande as sort of like this pop star, and Glinda's sound is not pop star at all. It's very operatic. Is that the word I'm looking for? A huge portion of what Glinda needs to deliver in her role is this very high soprano opera sound. And I didn't know this until later, but apparently as soon as Ariana Grande got the role, first of all, if you saw that video of her receiving the role, I mean, how do you not find that heartwarming? Like, I cried when I watched. She was bawling. She's like, I'm gonna take such good care of this character. I had faith going into it. Then I heard she was hiring a vocal coach, even though she is like constantly topping Billboard charts and stuff like that. She took it really seriously, which I appreciated, and I think it shows so much in the movie. I had never heard of Jonathan Bailey before. I saw that so many people were very happy about that choice. Obviously, I have seen Jeff Goldblum in stuff. I didn't have any particular opinions about him either. Like, it was mostly for me just Ariana Grande was the name that I'd heard before, and then Peter Dinklage was one of the professors. And then of course there was the girl from Zac Efron as the circus ringleader. Greatest Showman. Also, I loved that everybody's making fun of the director talking about hiring Ariana, because he basically said that he did not think he was going to bring her into the movie. And there were so many times where he was just like, she was the most interesting person in the room. Like, I did not expect this. I did not expect this. And everyone's like, why did you even have her show up? And apparently, I don't know if she actually tried out for both roles, but she did apparently sing Defying Gravity and some of the other Elphaba songs in her audition. And I feel like at the end of the day, it was a gutsy risk to put Ariana in that role, and I'm so glad he did. And obviously, let's just get into the press mess part of this video, because that press tour, first of all, just the press surrounding the movie, and then the press tour itself, there were so many times where I was watching it, I was like, this is going to be such a train wreck. First of all, like we all know, the the whole thing about Ariana Grande getting together with the guy who plays Bach. And I just feel like everyone is like me. I didn't even see SpongeBob, the Broadway musical, but I can't unsee that man as SpongeBob. And I don't know how Ariana Grande got past that. There was also a lot of criticism of people being like, this actor looks exactly like your brother. I'm just gonna leave that there, but he does. There was, of course, a lot of speculation, I don't know if that's the right word, concern maybe, about both Ariana and Cynthia on this press tour. There's sort of a lot of comparisons of before and after pictures of them before and after filming. It's between them and their doctors, but at the same time, like, there was a significant physical change. But a lot of people were talking about this weird Wizard of Oz curse. I knew the movie, like the filming of the original Wizard of Oz was kind of messed up with like the paint, and I heard Dorothy's stunt double got like 2nd and 3rd degree burns from the hot air balloon. I also didn't know that Judy Garland was also pushed to not gain any type of weight, and she was apparently smoking lots of cigarettes to maintain that, and she wasn't necessarily being treated properly or eating properly during that role. Like, there was apparently so much stuff behind the scenes. Even the paint that they put on, it was either the Wicked Witch or the original Tin Man. I think it was the Tin Man. One of them had to completely leave the role because they were so ill from the paint because it had lead in it or something. I think a lot of people overlook it because it is such a classic and it was such a mile marker in film production. It was the first color movie. That was the whole reason that they made Dorothy's shoes red, because in the original books they're silver, but if you're gonna make a color movie, you want to do something iconic with the color. So that's why they did the ruby slippers, and I really liked the nod they did to that in the Wicked movie, where Glinda has these red shoes and she kind of taps them together while she's talking to Elphaba, and I thought that was a nice nod to the original film. There were a lot of really nice like parallels between the original film. You can really tell that the people who wrote the script and made this movie are such big fans, not only of Wicked, but The Wizard of Oz too. However, there was some criticism. People were thinking they were sort of off their rocker a little bit going through the press tour, and it's true. I was watching them do this press tour and I'm like, is the movie bad? Like, why are we crying all the time? All the time. And now, having seen the movie, I can understand how much, I think, heart and soul went into this, and I think that just made them very emotional, but in a way that you were like, are they okay? And this brought us to the viral moment of holding space for the lyrics of Defying Gravity. This was so funny. Both of the girls are talking to this interviewer, and they're talking about the lyrics of Defying Gravity, and I'm not going to say that they're not impactful and incredibly meaningful, because they are. But the way they talked about the fact that they were holding space for the lyrics of Defying Gravity was so funny. Y'all, the people, I love the internet so much. The people making fun of this interview, it would be the most stupid thing. And then in the comments or in part of the video, they'd be like, holding space for this today. I just couldn't. There were some moments of them just being so wild. And while they're talking about this, Ariana Grande is like holding onto one of Cynthia Erivo's fingers. It's so funny. There was also the poster. If you've seen I have it right here for you. This is the original branding of the show. They obviously remade a version with Cynthia and Ariana for the movie posters and stuff like that. And so part of it was that Cynthia Erivo you can see her eyes, and then Ariana Grande, for some reason, she had her hand way down here. It looked kind of weird. And so somebody went in and fixed up the movie poster to look more like this one. And so to do that, they added more shadow so like you couldn't see the eyes, and then they did red lipstick and they moved Ariana's hand up and stuff like that. Cynthia Erivo got apparently very, very offended. I can understand what she was trying to say. She was like, I made this choice, she said specifically, to look down the barrel of the camera to the viewer. I think it was someone who was just a fan of the original musical making a parody. Then just the slew of YouTube videos right before the release about the original book, which I have not read. I read the original Wizard of Oz novel. As much as I like the story, it also just wasn't my cup of tea as a reading experience. So I never ended up reading Wicked, and probably good thing I didn't. I don't know how they made this musical so successful coming from that as the source material. It is genuinely Wizard of Oz fan fiction. By the time the person wrote it, I believe the original Wizard of Oz was in the public domain, so they could do whatever they wanted with it. And they really took it too far. I am not going to go into some of the content of that book in this video, because I don't want to, but there is some R-rated stuff that goes down in that book. Circling back to the fandom. So, fan loyalty / nostalgia for this thing. Because for a lot of the people who are watching this, they are my age and they went to go see Wicked when they were 11, 12 years old. We've listened to the soundtrack so many times. It's insane. And so when some of these songs or little bits and pieces started to come out from the movie, in their defense, so this is specifically Defying Gravity that a lot of people made fun of. They drew out Defying Gravity in the movie because there was more that they could put in it in different scenes and things like that, and they could draw things out because this movie was very long. And so there's a significant break between the first half of the song and then when we get to the part where Cynthia's saying "it's me" and then going into the final, stanza, I don't know, of Defying Gravity. And there's like the way the break is and the difference in her speaking voice and singing voice, it sounded honestly really cheesy. Now I know that there's like a minute between the parts of the song that are broken up and it makes more sense. But oh my gosh, that was like hilarious. Also, right before I saw the movie, I was obsessed with this choice, honestly. They're doing Popular, and now it's like a TikTok trend to do where Ariana's singing "Did They Have Brains or Knowledge? Don't Make Me Laugh." They were. And then Elphaba says "Popular." And then Ariana just like yells like gremlin, "Right!" And it's so funny. And people have been using that as a TikTok trend and I just absolutely love it. Like I cannot get enough of that part. And then also everybody was learning the choreography to Popular, and that has been super fun to see. And then also, so once we all saw the movie, I think that's when everybody started to get really obsessed with the opening number, "No One Mourns the Wicked," because true opera, like just the highest notes ever. And all these people are coming on TikTok and they're singing it the same way. Like I know that is how it is sung originally by Kristen Chenoweth, but we come in to TikTok and I'm seeing hundreds of people hitting the notes that Ariana hits in that opening number. And I'm like, when did we all learn opera? Did I miss this class at school? Why are hundreds of people singing at this caliber? It's like every winter when all of the figure skaters come out of the woodworks at those little pop-up rinks. And I'm like, when did we all learn how to ice skate, let alone figure skate and do those do the thing where you start spinning and then you catch your leg? Apparently everybody can do that. I can't. But anyways, all these people are now singing these. And first of all, I love the comparison of the Defying Gravity riffs. So I will listen to that all day long. I've loved seeing that from people too, where they're doing their own takes of Defying Gravity and that final riff. But having seen a lot of these sounds coming out right before the movie, I was just a little concerned about it because it had so much to live up to. It's how I feel about the new Harry Potter adaptation. It has so much to live up to. The original films are so iconic, the same way that the original stage production is so iconic. But in this case, it did. Okay, let's talk about the movie. If you don't want to talk about all of the individual songs and choices and stuff like that, it is your time to exit because we're going to go into that. So, even though I'd heard so many good things, I went into the theater skeptical, but I felt better because I had started to see people come online and talk about how amazing the movie was. So I was feeling good, and then we sat down and they hit the first, the piano part in the beginning where normally they have the dragon and the steam and stuff like that. And everyone sings that good news part, and I was like, oh, it sounds exactly the way I wanted to sound. I was sat for the rest of the movie. When we first open up and they're doing some of the overture stuff, we go across flying over all of the tulips, which were apparently real. They used a lot of practical sets in this, which I think is amazing. And we see Dorothy and, the crew with the broom. So it's foreshadowing at this point. We see over the rainbow, we get a little bit of that soundtrack in there, which was really nice. Apparently the tulips, they planted 9 million tulips for that. They were real. All of the kids running through those fields, all of those tulips were real. I don't know if it's a town square in Munchkinland or whatever it was. It felt recreated, but the same, which was really cool with the yellow brick road and all of that. It was so good. And then we have Ariana come in. She lands in the bubble and she has her little wand thing and she pops the bubble and she's like, And it was so Glinda. It was perfect. One thing I really liked about the movie is that you can see all the facial expressions in ways that you can't fully see on stage. And obviously for a musical, the gestures are so big that you're usually getting it. But seeing the little tiny facial expressions and changes of Glinda trying to process the fact that all these people are cheering that Elphaba has died, and she is obviously not happy about it. That's her best friend, and she's having to fake rejoice with all these people. And you can see that she is trying to sort of stand up for her and be like, you know, you might have made those choices too if you had had the same past that she had. And we enter into that part, the have another drink scene of it. That part was fantastic. Amazing choreography. Obviously, like in a musical, you can only make a person look like an animal so much. And so the CGI in this with the bear that was her nanny and stuff like that, that was so cool. There were so many people like, they painted the baby. There's ways you can do that on the computer without actually painting a child. Something that we don't get to see in the musical that they did was baby Elfie and baby Nessa, and that was really, really cute. They kind of show what it was like for Elphaba growing up being bullied. We don't really see that in, like, we obviously know she was bullied in the stage play, but we don't have that connection of watching such a young child going through that, basically. And seeing her having these powers at such a young age where she can't control them, it's very much like an emotional based thing for her. And I mean, we are entering in on Shiz, and it was word for word. I was really worried they were going to change a lot of stuff, and they added some things, but stuff that didn't feel out of place. I was worried they were going to be like, let's make this new modern retelling type of thing, and it was going to stray a lot from the source material, and it didn't. I was watching it like, I have heard these words so many times before, like even just the dialogue outside of the songs. They go into Dear Old Shiz, and that part is always funny to me. It's not my favorite song of the soundtrack, but they did a good job with that. Elphaba and Glinda's first meeting, where it's like, you're green, and she like looks at herself, she's like, I am, and then like does the whole explanation thing. She's a little less dramatic with it. Elphaba in the musical, at least the iterations of it that I've seen, Elphaba is more of an angry character. It's just more dramatic, where she's saying, yes, I've always been green. No, it's not because I ate grass as a child, and being angry. Whereas Cynthia sort of does it as more of like, I am exhausted of telling people this. And Elphaba is there to drop off Nessa, but then she has that moment of her powers overcoming her, and one of the professors being like, you have to stay at this school. Even if your father was only willing to put one of you into this school, you clearly have magic, and you need to be here. That's when we go into The Wizard and I, which I feel like for me is always a song not that I forget about the song, but I love Dancing Through Light and Popular and Defying Gravity so much that the other ones sort of fall to the wayside, and I forget how good The Wizard and I is. And in this one, it's so cool because there was such a big practical set, and then obviously all the stuff that they added in post. And we get to see so much of the school because Cynthia is sort of going around, and I love that they included so many green and pink plants in this one. Like, it was so fun to see all the extra color and things that they could add in that you just don't have the time or space for in the musical. Choreography was great in that part, and I also loved the part where she's having a vision like a prophecy, and she's looking in the thing and she sees the scene that we just saw of the Munchkins celebrating her death. And then they did a really cool thing with the color where she's still clearly painted green, but when she's talking about the wizard offering to degreenify her as her dream, she doesn't look green anymore, especially in comparison to the green screen, the green like portal thing that's right behind her. It was so good. And of course, Glinda has accidentally offered part of her suite for Elphaba. And it's so amazing. We go into this room, pink suitcases everywhere, and Glinda brings Elphaba back into this tiny part of the room, and she opens up her dresses like they're curtains. And there's a note on Elphaba's tiny bed where it's like, it's great! Exclamation point. And then Glinda turns to her, she goes, it's great. There were so many little things like that I just loved so much. And then they head into What Is This Feeling? Beyond iconic. They did such a good job with this. And it's so fun because we get to see a montage, which is something we couldn't have done in a musical. So I love seeing that, and them going around the school and like dealing with being in the cafeteria and they hate each other, and being in PE/fight training and they hate each other, and being in classes and trying to go to bed and handle hating the person who you're living with and all that stuff. It was so well done. They still did the at the end where Elphaba scares her and Glinda screams, because at first I thought they weren't going to do that. The song ended and I was like, it feels incomplete without that ending, and they still did it, which was really good. They also did a really, really good job during this song of showing that they have what each other wants. So Elphaba has always wanted to be accepted, which is like Glinda's the poster child of being accepted by everybody because she's just beloved. And then Glinda, Elphaba has the one thing that she wants, which is to be able to use magic. And we see multiple times that she's walking up and trying to introduce herself to Madame Morrible and talking about how much she wants to become a sorceress and stuff like that, and seeing her reaction to being pushed aside so that she can talk to Elphaba, and Madame Morrible being like, you're the only student I'm taking this year. Something Bad, I don't really like that song. It's just not my favorite, but they did such a like beautiful production of it. The way they were explaining what's happening to the animals and stuff, they used those shadows on the wall, and that is paralleled later on when the wizard is doing, you know, his little show for Elphaba and Glinda, and he is being projected back onto the wall. So there was a lot of nice parallels there. I've always loved Dancing Through Life, but like you've got to give it up for this one because the choreography was amazing. The way they had the library rotating and moving and stuff like that, and apparently they brought in like parkour experts because they were the only ones who could possibly pull off this choreography of having them move through, and the ladders. It was so cool. Like there was so much to watch. Like you could not look away from this scene for 1 second or else you would miss something so cool. I saw somebody saying like it's somehow giving Gaston except we're on his side, which I thought was so fun. They did such a good transition from that into the Ozdust ballroom. It feels a little less ballroom and more nightclub, kind of like sleazy a little bit, but I really liked the way they did it. It was so colorful. Like it seemed like they were underwater and there were all these colorful fish going by and stuff like that. They had the animals playing the instruments. Like it was so cool. Obviously, Glinda is just so enamored by Fiyero. It's so fun. And at this point, Fiyero clearly is interested in Elphaba, but she hates him so much. My favorite scene in the movie was Elphaba gets invited. First of all, Glinda and the two Glinda friends, they were so good. They come in and Glinda's getting ready for the party. Her dress is amazing. All the costumes were so beautiful. But this one, I loved it so much. She's getting ready and her friends pull out the hat and she's like, oh, my granny makes it, like she can't. And she's like, I don't hate anybody that much to give it to them. And they're like, maybe you do. And she ends up giving it to Elphaba. So Elphaba wears it to the dance. And she shows up and she starts dancing and stuff like that. And it is as awkward as it has ever been. This is when Glinda goes and dances with Elphaba. She's like following the moves. I've always liked that scene because clearly Glinda feels like very guilty about giving her the hat. She's like, I'm the reason. She's getting ridiculed right now. And this is directly after Glinda set up Bach with Nessa to kind of get away from having to dance with Bach that night, and she sort of engineered that moment. But for Nessa, that's very special. She thinks she's being asked on a date. She had told Elphaba. Elphaba, in turn, had made sure that Madame Morrible took Glinda into her sorcery class. The only thing Glinda has wanted so far. And so now she feels guilty because Elphaba did her this huge favor, and now, you know, she's being ridiculed for something that she did. And this is, I think, when we see a turning point in Glinda's character when she walks out there and she's willing to dance with her, because even her friends come up and they're like, do not do this. And she still does it. And I think that is also when we see Fiyero respect Glinda. I don't think that's something we see as much in the musical. We sort of see him feeling bad for Elphaba and respecting Elphaba for being willing to go out and dance, even though, you know, everybody's staring at her. But this is also a moment where he sort of respects what Glinda decides to do to bring her into the fold, essentially. But in this movie, because you can see the facial expressions, it added a lot, I think, especially to this scene, is because Glinda, everyone's like, she doesn't care, like, she's just doing her own thing. And Glinda very clearly is like, she cares, she's just not acting like she does, which is a line from the musical. And they're doing this dance thing. And at one point, Glinda sort of like caresses Elphaba's face while they're dancing and like wipes away a tear from that moment. Oh, it was so powerful. They did such a good job. That is like when I started tearing up for the first time in the movie. Then, of course, we go to Bach singing to Nessa and trying to project his feelings from Glinda to Nessa. But that moment of him dancing with her, it was really cute. It was really cute. Nessa is in the wheelchair, so she feels like she can't really fully enjoy being a student. Like, she's always been so sheltered, and this is just another extension of that where she's having to watch other people dance, and Bach does make that really special for her. Then we head into my favorite scene of the musical ever, Pop-U-LAR. It's always so funny. Like, my understanding is that they don't, not that they don't give the Glindas a chance to, give their own expression to it, but apparently there are very set rules of what they can and can't do on stage. And one of my favorite add-ons that a Glinda has ever done is when she's like, you'll be popular, and then she pulls up her leg in like, it looks like a cheerleader pose, but she's not doing it correctly. She barely gets her leg up there. She's like, yes. Ariana Grande, she was so funny in this scene. She did such a good job where she is, first of all, she tells Elphaba her secret that she and Fiora are getting married. She like falls back. She's like, it's so good. Elphie kind of finally opens up to her about her past and her secret and stuff like that. But beforehand, when Glinda like throws herself on the bed and like looks back to see if Elphaba feels bad about not sharing enough and then goes back down, it was so funny. Like they did such a good job with it. And then they go into Pop-U-LAR, and just the choreography and having all of the set pieces that they did were just so good. Her doing the thing where she's like laying on the ground going around her, that was amazing. This is the moment where we have Don't Make Me Laugh, They Were Popular, right, with her like being so insistent about it, and it was just like she clearly had such a good idea of the character, and then her going and dancing in the hall and stuff. Like it was so wonderful, the whole thing. We eventually head into I'm Not That Girl. They're in class and they take away the professor for being a goat, and they bring in this new professor, and he has a lion cub in a cage, which is obviously the cowardly lion we end up with later. This is when Elphaba gets so upset, which we know that her powers are connected to her emotions, and she brings the poppies, which was really cool. Seeing everybody, they just all fall asleep, and then Fiora's the only one left awake. And I've seen different speculations about this. Is either she likes Fiora already and she is keeping him awake, not on purpose, but not on purpose, you know what I mean? Or because Fiora is also the only one not asleep in relation to what the wizard is doing to the animals. Either way you want to take that. But they end up taking the lion cub to the forest and stuff like that. And during this time, they put the lion cub in the basket in the bike, which is exactly like the movie of the woman who becomes the Wicked Witch of the West. I'm Not That Girl is a beautiful song. It's just like not my favorite of the soundtrack. I think I just like the more upbeat stuff in general. One Short Day was amazing. I heard that there was a surprise in the movie, but honestly, I did not think it was going to be Idina and Kristen coming out. That was so funny because they're still in character, and Kristen is like throwing herself in front of Idina, and then Idina hits the famous original Defying Gravity riff. These people who made the movie knew what we wanted, and they delivered. Also, when they were heading into the Emerald City, first of all, the train was amazing. Apparently, that was a real set. Obviously, the cogs weren't moving, that was CGI, but the train itself was real, which is crazy. And I loved when Glinda is coming to see her off and she's like, Fiora's been thinking and it's worrying me. And then Elphie is on the train getting ready to leave and she's telling Glinda to come with her. We meet the wizard. They did such a good job. Like, I can't stop saying how good of a job they did with the face. That it's exactly like the stage production. So in the movie, they have just somebody projected onto a screen, but in the stage play, they have that whole mechanical face. And this one even looks like Jeff Goldblum, which is hilarious. And so he actually comes out, and then we go into A Sentimental Man, and I don't like that song, to be honest. I never really liked it, but I did like how they had his plans for the Wizard of Oz with the dollhouse he made for his daughter, who he doesn't know is his actual daughter, Elphaba, with her little figurine in it. And I love that he was like, I have this road, and I don't know what color I want to make it. And he's going through all the different color options, and then Glinda takes it over. And Glinda's going through all of the different colors of the road. And she picks yellow. And she's like, it just says road. But that was really cool. It was like the wizard's sandbox, basically. I love that people on TikTok are doing the trend of like getting closer to the camera the more I like the song. And then everybody, when A Sentimental Man pops up, they run away or they're like as far back as they can get. I saw somebody just like climb into a trash can. Like, it was so funny. It's not that Jeff Goldblum did a bad job. I just don't think anybody really likes that song. I feel like they did a really good job with the impactful moment of the wizard being like, is that what you want? To not be green anymore. Elphie decides, you know what, actually no. I want you to handle the problem with the animals losing their speech and make sure that they can, live the way they want to again. And they bring out the grimoire, which the grimoire was so cool. The way it like folded and then unfolded again. And like the pages lifted up. Man, it was good. And then she's doing the spell. that's supposed to help this monkey that she's next to. And instead he starts sprouting the wings and stuff. The other monkey guards outside are also sprouting the wings. We don't know that yet. But she's watching this and she's like, he is clearly in pain, like fix it, fix it. And that's when it becomes clear that this was the wizard's plan all along, that he doesn't have any actual power and he needs Elphaba. But this scene of her running away, we have Madame Morrible over the intercom system talking about how there is a wicked witch on the loose. And both Elphaba and Glinda are running through these hallways and the monkeys are like smashing into the windows. This part was truly scary. This part of the movie is what would make me be like, don't take a kid, like a little kid, to this movie. Because it truly terrifying. This is when we go into Defying Gravity, and oh, it was so good. They split it, you know, with every song, they were able to add a little bit more. That's why this movie was so long. And they did such a good job with Defying Gravity and the chase around and the moment with Glinda and Elphaba. Like, it was so good. Like, I just love that part so much. They have the I hope you're happy thing, and I feel like it shows how strong their friendship is, because even though they're mad at each other, they're like I really hope that you are happy with this choice and that you aren't going to regret this later. And so they go their separate ways. They have Elphaba rising up into the sky, and it's the same way with the cape going down, that it looks right before you go into intermission for the musical. So we all knew that this was where it was going to cut off. It's the most natural cutoff for 2 movies. The only problem is that all of my favorite songs are in the first half. And so I know that they're doing an original song for the next part, and apparently it's already filmed. We already have so much preview footage of Glinda's marriage and all of that stuff. And then the movie ends, and I like momentarily was like, do we stick around because Marvel has trained us to wait? But we didn't, and later I almost had a panic attack. I saw a TikTok where it's like, wicked bonus scene, and I was like, they did not. And they didn't. It was just the search. There was no scene after the credits, thankfully. But I thought the movie was so good. It was 2 hours and 40 minutes, and it was long. Like, when I stood up after the movie, I was like, that was a long time to be here. But, like, I feel like they did a good... I would not have cut anything out of this. Also, in the next one, we're going to have Dorothy. So I don't think they've announced the casting for Dorothy. I feel like they would have had to have cast her already, though, which is also one of my favorite TikTok trends going around right now, is that people are pretending to be Glinda when Dorothy's singing to her, and she sees, you know, who's dead when Dorothy mentions the witch, and she knows it's Elphaba, and, like, Glinda having all these realizations of, like, what is going on? What's actually about to happen here? All this stuff while Dorothy's singing, and that is so funny. I think it's going to be really good. I think the new song is also going to be really good, so I'm interested to see how they do that. They have Steven Schwartz on the job. Like, also, I saw behind the scenes of him. I didn't know that the whole Unlimited thing, that part of the song, is Somewhere Over the Rainbow, just in a different tempo. People are so smart. It's wild. Anyway, that's all I have. I have like 3 minutes left on this camera. So, did you like Wicked? There's one right answer. I would love to hear your favorite parts, any changes or things that they kept the same that you thought they did a really good job. I just love how they were able to do more with the set, like the thing with the Elphaba statue that she sets on fire like Burning Man. Like, it was all so good. Did you like the casting? How did you feel? Do you think they should have chosen like a no-name to do this role, which is what originally I think people thought they were going to do? I would love to hear all the things and discuss, because I'm kind of obsessed right now. My entire For You page and my entire suggested page on YouTube is just Wicked. Please like this video if you liked it. Click subscribe if you want to talk about more book stuff. My name's Caitlin. Thanks for watching. Bye.